Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
This Thanksgiving, think outside the oven and get Thanks Grilling with Ace. Get a new grill and choose from top brands like Traeger, Weber, and Big Green Egg to add even more flavor to your Thanksgiving turkey, side dishes, and desserts. Plus, right now, get free assembly and delivery on all grills and accessories $3.99 and up. For the best help on the best grills, stop by your local Ace and get Thanks Grilling. Ace Rewards members only through December 24th. See participating stores for scheduling or exclusions.
Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and you are listening to No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 1420, and welcome to Sunday. And as I've been doing all year, Sunday is a day where I've been bringing back some of my interviews from my old show, Job Search Radio, which I think that today is actually the last day that the show is being released. I decided to bring it to an end, even though it was the number 2 show in Apple Podcasts for job hunting. Frankly, everything is a lot of work these days, and I'm doing a lot of coaching, and I just was starting to run out of time. So I thought basically I would start bringing back interviews that I did a few years ago because there's some great material in there that I thought I would share. Today's interview is with Hannah Morgan from CareerSherpa.net. Hannah is very well known in the job search blogging world, and here she talks about becoming a sleuth to find the hiring manager. Hope you find it helpful and hope you give it a great review in Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to the show. Seriously, give it a great review. Spotify, we're on Spotify as well. And I'll also say, if you're interested in my coaching, my coaching you, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Once we're connected, message me that you're interested in coaching. We'll set up time for a free discovery call. And with that, let's get going.
My guest for this show is Hannah Morgan, who's a job search, career, and social media strategist and founder of CareerSherpa.net. She teaches job seekers how to land jobs in today's competitive market by standing out with a solid online reputation and using social networks to sleuth connections and information. Hannah, welcome to Job Search Radio. Great to have you on board.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
You're very welcome. So I had a guest on recently named Jeff Altman from Execunet who spoke about, and I think all of us know the statistic, 70% of all jobs are filled by people through networking. But then he continued on to say that 70% of those 70% actually come about through finding people that you didn't know at the beginning of the job search. So that leads itself to our talking about how do you find these people who could be useful to you. And, as someone who does sleuthing, where should someone start off if they are going to start sleuthing to find leads for themselves in their networking?
Right. And, I love that stat and that information from Execunet. I think that's just so powerful, and I hope it helps drive people in the direction of sleuthing and being more comfortable networking. Professionally and for job seekers, the easiest place to begin sleuthing is LinkedIn. So there are so many different ways to go about this, but we'll start with the most obvious. If there's a job description, a job posting that you've seen posted, go check out that job description and see if there are any clues or hints about who the hiring manager, the actual person that you would be reporting into, might be. Sometimes job postings will include a job title, or sometimes it will say, please submit your resume directly to, and it will give a person's name. Sometimes that's the human resources person, but other times it might be the actual person that you'd be reporting into or the hiring manager. So with a little sleuthing in hand, if you've been able to come up with a job title or name, I would recommend going over to LinkedIn and searching for that name on LinkedIn and see what information, what profiles come up. Oftentimes you might find that you're connected to somebody, and it would be not too difficult to reach out and ask to connect via LinkedIn to that person. So you can begin establishing a relationship early in the process.
Now, hypothetically, if the name isn't there or it isn't obvious, like in Big Company 101, hi, we are Mondo Behemoth Enterprises, and we hide everything that we post. Where might someone start that way under those circumstances?
Great question. So, going back to LinkedIn again, I would recommend going to doing a search for the company on LinkedIn. And because almost every Fortune 500 company is on LinkedIn, chances are pretty good that almost any company that you would be interested in would be somehow, some way on LinkedIn. So if you go do a company search, you can see a listing of all the employees who work there. And underneath each employee's profile, it will say if you know anybody who is connected to them, if you're not already a first-level connection. So if you begin looking at who you know who's connected to those people, you could reach out to somebody and say, hey, I see that you know Hannah. I would love an introduction. Would you be willing to do that for me? So that's just one way. There may be multiple people and multiple contacts that you have in that company. The outreach is really an opportunity to ask that person who works inside the company for any insight they have, why they like working for that company, how they got started in that company, how they got hired in that company, some of the things that they have enjoyed about working for that company. So that person who is a company insider can be a wonderful informant, source of information about the inside scoop on the company. And so often we can get some great off-the-record information about a company by speaking with somebody in the company ahead of the whole job application and interview process.
I agree with you on that, Hannah. Sometimes I wish LinkedIn also had a messaging function. So if you could catch someone online, you might be able to do that in a more real-time kind of way. But for now, it doesn't. And as a result, what I'm hearing you talk about is almost like informational interviewing online.
Absolutely. So let me just say, you made this wonderful observation. Wouldn't it be great if LinkedIn had sort of an instant messaging system where you could reach out to them? Let's take that one step in a different direction, because there are open networks that don't require you to have any kind of formal connection or interaction with somebody and be able to have a conversation with them online. So an example of two of those open networks are Twitter and Google+. So if you search for that person on LinkedIn and you can't find them, or there's just no way for you to really connect with them, search for them on Twitter, search for their name on Twitter, or search for the company on Twitter, and use Twitter as an outreach. You can send a simple message that says, hey, I'm following your company. I'm really interested in getting the inside scoop. Who would you recommend I speak to? Or you could do the same thing on Google+. You can see on Google+ many times, if you search from the search bar on Google+, you can search for a company name, and it will show you the employees who have listed that company in their profile. So you will see lots of different results for ABC Company, and some of those people may be just the people that you might want to be reaching out to. If not, the wonderful thing about Twitter and Google+ is that they're both open networks, and generally people who are on those networks are receptive to the outreach, where LinkedIn really bases, if people are more conservative and they're less outgoing in general, those two other platforms are much more understanding of the openness of the relationship or lack thereof.
On Google+, one of the fun ways to do it, after you've actually connected with someone or started to follow them, is to see if you might be able to arrange a time for a hangout, which doesn't require that someone be at their desk. There's an app for that for both Android and iOS, where you could just do a hangout and have a brief conversation with someone. Or you can, of course, use Google Talk, G-Talk, to be able to do a conversation online with someone. A couple of different ways, but I think I've taken us off the subject of using LinkedIn to do some of the sleuthing, and we've solved one issue, which is how to have that conversation with someone. So circling back to that behemoth company and trying to find some of the people, I heard you talk about going to the company page, seeing who you knew who might be there, see who they might know who was there as well, to see if they might provide an introduction so you could do some networking to get to the hiring manager. Did I recap that properly?
You absolutely did, yes, absolutely. So LinkedIn also has, I'm going to add, if I may, LinkedIn also has an alumni function, which is under the Connections button, the Connections pull-down menu. And so many times people don't think about using their alumni connections. I've been out of school many, many years, don't even want to say how long. But because I share that common bond of where I attended college, that oftentimes can open up a door with a complete stranger, somebody who graduated many years ahead of me or many years behind me. So I would really encourage anybody at any age to consider using the alumni function, find alumni function on LinkedIn, because it's just another way that you can open up your network to find those people who might work for the target companies.
That's a sweet one. And where was it located again? Was it under Yes, it's under Connections. I was taking a quick look at my desktop to find it. So for my listeners, if you go to your LinkedIn homepage and you see the Connections tab along the top, do a drop down and you'll see the Find Alumni function there as a way of trying to find some people to network with. Nice one.
So it shows you where all of your alumni live, where they work. And so if you can show more to see the different companies, show more. And I thought you can even search the set. So if you wanted to search to see if there was anyone who worked at that behemoth company, you can enter that in. And if that company name comes up, you will see. In this case, I entered a company name, and once you'll see the blue bar sort of expands. If you click on where they work, you'll see the demographic information of just that number of people and what they do. And then scroll down, you'll see the pictures of people who actually, whatever that number is, you'll see those people listed below. You'll see their profiles and when they graduated.
And that's for the alumni function?
Mm-hmm.
Where you can do that? Nice.
Yeah. So it's a great tool, and again, because there is that strength of an alumni connection, I think that's a very powerful way to reconnect or establish a new relationship with somebody.
So for the first person who finds a job that they're interested in, you've spoken so far about obviously seeing if any of your own connections can provide an introduction. Actually, you first talked about seeing if you can discern from the advertisement whether you can figure out who the hiring manager is. Then going to the company page for a first-level connection, or what you described as a second level. And now we're coming to the alumni page to see if there might be people who you've gone to school with who might know who this individual is or who works for this firm that you might be able to reach out to for an introduction or just for informational interviewing.
Right, absolutely.
Good. So we'll be back with more from Hannah Morgan in just a moment, but first, my Job Search Insider tip for this show. So my Job Search Insider tip is being brought to you on this show by Ron Nash, the LinkedIn Whisperer. Ron, what do you have for my audience?
Jeff, today I'm actually going to share a story based on two parables that I call You're Not Going to Frickin' Believe What This Guy Did on His Way to the Job Interview.
Quite a title, Ron.
Yeah, so it's based on a scenario, and I'm certain that the scenarios happen. In fact, it's a scenario I can take from my own life and just kind of retrofit it. But parable number one is a simple idea. Individual, been looking for an opportunity, finally gets a job interview, extremely excited, puts on his best interview clothes. On the way to the interview, stops at a Starbucks, decides to get a cup of coffee, jumps in the car, turns on the local news, death and destruction, whatever the heck they're broadcasting. Driving to the interview, just thinking along the way. On the way to take the exit to the company, someone in a blue BMW cuts him off abruptly. He spills coffee. Needless to say, while it's hot, that's not the big deal. It messes up his outfit. He sees red, road rage red, takes his exit off, storms up, goes to the parking lot, storms up to the place where he's going to be interviewing, goes up to the reception and says, some idiot just cut me off. I spilled coffee all over myself. Do you have a restroom? They direct him to the restroom. He goes in, takes a paper towel, tries to wipe it off, makes a bigger mess, comes out, sits in the lobby, fuming. His state is he's almost like what Cesar Millan calls red zone. At this juncture, the hiring manager comes out to greet him, and as he introduces himself, he's very conscious of the stain, and he says, you know what, I apologize in advance. Some idiot in a blue BMW cut me off on my way here. The hiring manager looks at him, and she says, apologetically, I have to apologize. I think that was me. I had an emergency here. Now, Jeff, I ask you this. At this juncture, based on the desperation that person felt for a job, you think they would have an opportunity to build rapport to get that opportunity?
Not with road rage going on. Not with that kind of attitude.
Exactly. I think it's pretty obvious, but if we were to talk about the state that we show up in, there's a lot of different things that go on in our minds before an interview. So in order to have a successful interview, I think it takes a different state of mind, and I'll talk about what I call reframing. So in this second parable, same exact scenario, interview, setup, Starbucks coffee. In this case, person's listening to really nice music, getting in a good mood. Someone cuts them off in a blue Beamer. First thing that person does is what's called reframing. Oh my God, I hope the person's okay. That was abrupt. I hope they're okay. I hope there's no emergency. Individual takes the exit off, goes up to the parking lot, goes out into the reception area, notices how beautiful the building is, goes to the reception, asks for the restroom and says, hey, I had an unfortunate incident. Someone cut me off. I spilled coffee. Is there a restroom? That individual says, hey, I have some shout in my desk. Why don't you try shouting it out? And goes to the restroom, tries wiping the stain off, makes a bigger mess, kind of chuckles, comes out, gives the reception the shout, waits for the interview to come down. The interviewer comes down, and at that juncture, interviewee says, I have to apologize in advance. Someone cut me off, and I made a big mess, and it was a blue BMW, and I don't know what happened. I hope they're okay. The interviewer says, I have to apologize. That was me. I noticed you in my back mirror, and I had an emergency at work. And they both, at that juncture, start building the first level of rapport. Now, that's called reframing. And from your experience, because you're the big game hunter, you've had lots of experience, how do you think the person's ability to build rapport at that juncture would be?
Number one is they've drawn the hiring manager in with guilt. Number two is, more importantly, they're prepared now. They're not out of control like the first situation with road rage. They're more in control of their emotions. They're more in control of their mental faculties. They're ready to perform versus the first person who's ready to be angry.
That is absolutely the case. And interestingly enough, as I used a term called reframing, and so in the world of psychology, it's a simple process. There's actually 4 really easy steps. When I find myself in a situation, as I am him, and things happen, the brain has a chemical reaction that lasts about 90 seconds. So adrenaline rush, you get whatever the emotion is, it lasts 90 seconds. After that juncture, it's purely up to you if you want to stay in that state. Now, easy 4-step reframing process. Number one, heed the warning signs before you go into the red zone. Obviously, usually there's something that shows up for you. Clenched jaw, increased heart rate. You may be a little anxiety or anxious. Number 2, check your breathing. Slow your breathing down. Anger promotes restricted breathing, lack of breathing. Number 3, acknowledge the emotion. You know what? I'm a little ticked right now. It's okay to acknowledge it. But, you know, if you feed that story, it's going to grow into a monster. And then number 4, reframe how you see the situation. In this case, the second parable, the person was able to say, you know what, I hope that individual's okay, as opposed to taking it personal.
Very nice tip, Ron. How can people reach you?
Very simply, 2 ways. Number 1, my website, www.theinacademy.com. That's THEIN Academy.com. And if you're on LinkedIn, let me just say you can reach me at LinkedIn.com, and I'm the In Academy.
Thank you, Ron. Great tip. And now we're back with Hannah, and let's continue our conversation. So, Hannah, lots of good stuff that you've given us so far, but I want some of the extra stuff, the secret sauce that you use when you're doing networking, beyond simply, the things that most people know about. Can you dig down a couple of layers and offer my listeners some of the premium stuff?
Sure. I learn a lot from recruiters and expert sourcers, people who actually do this for a living. I love to keep in contact with them, and I know that there are lots of secrets that they know that I don't even know about. But I have learned about some of them. Many times we're trying to get the email of somebody, right? And it's difficult to find that in email connection. There is a website called Recruitum. And it actually has a different URL, but Recruitum is the website name. If you go into that, you can enter the name of the person or company, and it will bring up their LinkedIn profile, or whether you're connected or not, it'll give you the URL to their LinkedIn profile. So that's one way of doing it. I'll tell you, but I recently wrote a book, Jeff, and I had to reach out to people that I had no connection with to ask them permission to use some of the information that I had found online. And so one of the things that I was able to do more often than not was to find them on Google Plus or on Twitter. Because if I found their name, I found the person's name, and really that is the golden nugget. You've got to be able to find a name. I was able to just Google that name and come up with the many different places where they had social outlets. Many times the Twitter account would come up first, and oftentimes the Google Plus account would come up. But there are other social networks out there that are more for creatives, but other people are using them. Sites such as, and now I'm pausing for a second so I can make sure I get them right. Dribble is one of them, and it's DRIBBBLE. Again, if you're Googling somebody's name, you will see all the different social media platforms that they might have a presence on, and oftentimes you can get their emails from those profiles, or at least reach out to them.
Very sweet. And you said Dribble is for creative types?
It is. But we're starting to see more and more people get on these. They're using them almost as a portfolio. Behance, BEHANCE, is another portfolio for creatives. But what, again, a lot of professionals are doing is using that as a place to capture images of their work, samples of their work. And we think about that. Almost all of us have some sample of work that we could take a screenshot of or a photograph of, and they're embedding that in these portfolio sites like Behance or Dribble. And then they have those pictures or images of their work available online that they can link to their LinkedIn profile, etc. So it becomes sort of this maze of tracing and tracking people back to find out where they've actually put some contact information and profile information.
And I know, because the work that I do, Google Chrome often attracts extensions that I use to try and locate people, and particularly email addresses, because in my case, I really want an email address to reach out to someone. I don't currently have one of the LinkedIn recruiter accounts, and what I found is extensions like Connectifier, or let's see now, there's another one called Monkey, M-O-N-K-I, which is pretty good, but Connectifier is very good, and there's another one called Connect 6, also for Chrome. Yes,
I just plugged in Chrome 6, or Degree 6, and I within my Chrome browser, and again, nothing's perfect. It's definitely a good start. I used to love Reportive, because that would allow me, when I got an email from somebody, to track back their social media profile so that I could connect with them and learn more about them. But that's going away, which is too bad. They were bought out.
I agree with you. That was, again, part of the LinkedIn acquisition of Reportive took away that functionality. There is... with Connectifier, it does much of that in displaying the image of the person. If it's able to find different social networks, same with Monkey. Monkey will identify different social networks the person might be on, where you can hook up with them. So what it'll do with a profile page on LinkedIn is it will have that displayed on the page for you, if it's able to find them, of course. So I find that a pretty helpful tool to find people and how to reach out to them if by some chance I'm not connected to them.
I think the strength of a relationship is also sort of important in getting the right kind of results. And often that people have had great success reaching out to their network on Facebook. And I know we don't think of Facebook as really a job search tool, but for many people, they have a vast network of people they personally know on Facebook. And so there was a stat that said that a lot of people, and I can't remember the number, but it was a very large percentage of people, had reached out to their network to ask for inside information on a company and gotten a job through that way. So many times people have listed the company they work for within Facebook, so you can always do the search of profiles to find friends you may know who work at a particular company, or just add a private or add a status to your update on Facebook, asking anybody if they had any information or know anybody at that particular company that you're interested in. It's amazing how people do want to help if they know they can.
I agree with you. I had a guest on a few months ago named Shally Steckerl, and Shally talked about one of the search functions with Facebook, where he said most people know that you can do a search of your immediate connections. So that one he glossed over. But then he said there's a search capability where you can do friends of friends who work at. And then friends of friends who work at, friends of friends of friends who work at, in effect getting to a third level from your connection. So once you've identified them, you can either message them through Facebook or ask your friends, the real friends who you have on Facebook, for an introduction to someone so you can do the kind of sleuthing to find out more about that job you want to try and connect for.
Right, absolutely. Many times, Facebook is just, we overlook that. People are hesitant to use that as a form of job search, and I think it's a generational thing too. It is a wonderful tool to source and to look for different things. LinkedIn has groups too, and I think that sometimes people forget that being a member of a group allows you to be able to reach out to people and establish a relationship or a connection with somebody you share a group with. So if I were a job seeker and I knew that I wanted to work for a company that was in financial services, I would probably go look for groups that specialized in financial services. and look for groups that had some kind of discussion, quality discussion going on, and in other words, their numbers there, and that the group size was significant. And by joining that group, it gives me access to connect with anybody else in that group. So that person that may have been a second or third level connection that you couldn't otherwise reach out to now becomes somebody that you can engage in conversation with, either right in the discussion platform or through an invitation.
You happen to use banking as an example. There's one group there with over 300,000 members that do for banking and financial services. A global group can be helpful no matter where in the world you are. There are opportunities that are being listed there and people that you can connect with, again, no matter where in the world you are. Groups is a great vehicle.
I love the groups, and I think that people don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from groups. I think, I generally steer job seekers away from connecting with human resources as a form of networking because I used to be in HR, and I know that I don't have an awful lot of time to network with everybody who would want to network with me. So I've got to put some filters in place. But I also know that in today's day and age, more and more HR professionals are interested in expanding their network because they never know what the future may hold, what jobs they may need to fill. And so they are more open to connecting with people who might be a good fit for the company. So, while I typically don't recommend that, they can be more open today and just as viable as a source of information. And their names and their contact information is always pretty available to be able to reach out with.
I agree. The goal for everyone is to get to the actual decision maker. Ultimately, with human resources, and no disrespect to HR professionals, many are good friends, many have helped feed my family for a long time, but ultimately they have influence, and the only decision ultimately they make is to reject. The hiring manager can choose to hire. The HR person can point out something adverse that causes the deal to go south. Ultimately, the HR person can't make the decision that causes that firm to do the hire without the other person. So they're influential, but they're not the decision maker, and the goal for the job hunter should be getting to the actual decision maker. Now, premium accounts or not having a premium account? What are your thoughts about that, Hannah?
Oh my gosh, I am the wrong person to ask, Jeff. I'm a cheapskate. I'm still not I still have not bought into the premium, so I'm always looking for the workarounds. I think it depends on a budget. I know people who are using the premium, but you know what? They're not using it as fully as they should or could be. Let's talk about the advantage of having the premium, which is being able to see everybody who's ever looked at your profile. Many people are interested in seeing people who've viewed their profile, but they don't take any action on it. So if I were going to pay and I were a job seeker, then I would absolutely reach out and send a message to every single person that had viewed my profile to establish some sort of a relationship and to find out what it was that brought them to my page. But most job seekers won't do that. They won't take that step to do the outreach and try and get the answer to that question.
It's such a mistake. For job hunters, you have to think like a recruiter does. And the advantage of the premium, Hannah just laid out perfectly. If you want to see who's looked at your profile, they had a reason for doing that. And you can do something as simple as LinkedIn notified me that you looked at my profile. Let's connect. Is there anything I can be doing to help you? Is there any question I could answer that might help you evaluate me? And allow them to connect with you. I'm sorry, please continue.
No. I'm absolutely in agreement. I think that you've given some great verbiage on what they can say to make that really simple to do.
Because the goal is not to be a salesperson online. It's always about building relationship, right?
I strongly believe in that. And I think one of the fun things one of the reasons I've enjoyed social media so much is the opportunity it's given me to network with people that I probably would not have met otherwise. I'm going to use you as an example, Jeff. Had we not met on social media, we would not be having this conversation.
And I've been following your writing for a long time, and it is terrific. We'll get to that later, folks. But I wanted to have you on the show because I'd seen you writing, your writings for quite some time. And had you not done the outreach, I might have paused a little bit longer before reaching out to you. But once we were connected, I was very happy to invite you to appear on the show.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
We're coming up on the end of our time with one another today. Is there any one additional tip that you want to share with the listeners?
Really great question. I think the greatest tip that I would love to provide is to not rely solely on the job boards as the sole mechanism for reaching out. I'm hoping that most job seekers will take the second step, which would use two steps when they're applying for jobs. And the first step is finding the job. The second step is reaching out to somebody who works inside the company to make that connection so that ultimately when you do apply, you can be a referred candidate, because referred candidates are hired externally at a much greater percentage than any other kind of candidate. So the goal is to always be a referred candidate.
Perfect. Hannah, thank you. This has been terrific. How can people reach you if they'd like additional advice from you or coaching from you?
Absolutely. The best way to reach out to me and to make contact is through Twitter. I'm there all the time and respond most quickly to that. It's at Career Sherpa, all one word. I also have a website, and there's a contact form on there, which is careersherpa.net. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions and direct you in the right way, provide guidance, and be that coach.
So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few ways to get even more from me. First of all, visit my website, www.thebiggamehunter.us. I have several thousand blog posts there that you can watch, listen to, or read to help you find your next job. If you want the best of my advice, join JobSearch.CoachingHQ.com, where I've curated my information with a focus on interviewing. If you have a few questions, contact me through the Magnify app for iOS. That's Magnify with an I at the end, or PrestoExperts.com, where you can call me. Schedule a specific time with me through chat on Magnify or by connecting with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Once we're connected on LinkedIn, you can message me about coaching you, speaking with me about a resume or LinkedIn profile critique, help with a salary negotiation, my trusted advisor services, as well as scheduling me for Magnify or for PrestoExperts.com. Like you, I don't work for free. You can also take my classes on Skillshare and become a premium member using the link in the show notes and receive 2 months for free instead of just the one that the site offers. Skillshare offers thousands of courses, not just simply mine. It is a great resource in a variety of different areas. Subscribe to my other podcast, which is called Job Search Radio. This one is number 1 in Apple Podcasts. Job Search Radio is number 2. Subscribe to both. You will get great information 7 days a week from this show, 6 days a week from the other. Lastly, I want to encourage you to join my group on Facebook called Career Angles. It's free to the first 500 people who join and is focused on helping you do better at work. Information is shared daily, and we're building a supportive group there to provide advice and counsel during difficult times. Again, the group on Facebook is called Career Angles. I'll be back tomorrow with more. In the meantime, have a great day. Be great!
At the Home Depot, we improve things. This holiday season, we've improved Black Friday. Instead of one day of crazy, we've lowered prices now, and they'll stay low all season. From decorations to dishwashers, wreaths to ratchet sets. So sleep in. You're not going to miss Black Friday. Not one little bit. Black Friday improved. The best prices of the year already here at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only while supplies last. See store for details.
When you're ready to ride Metro, we want you to know we're ready for you. Here are just a few of the people at Metro to tell you how we're doing our part to keep riders safe.
We're cleaning like never before with hospital-grade cleaning.
You'll find hand sanitizer stations all over the Metro.
No mask, no Metro. Need one? We have a few extras.
At Metro, we're doing our part to keep the D.C. area moving. Find out more at WMATA.com/doingourpart.